Hi guys, welcome to TFF TV. Feels strange saying that after recently in my TV. We have Andrew Flint with us. Hello Andrew, how you doing?
Hello Rob, not bad thanks, not bad. How are you doing in sunny Moscow?
It's boiling. I've got the air conditioning on and I'm in a loft at the moment. So anyway, let's crack on. We're on to Group F.
Group F. Group
yes.
F.
And we're looking at Germany, Mexico, South Korea and Sweden.
Sweden.
Yeah. Straight away, Andrew, Germany are going to win it, and Mexico are going to come second. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, look, you've got to go with the headline act, haven't you? Germany are. It's just embarrassing how good they are. But you've got to admire a well-structured plan that has come to fruition over the best part of 2 decades. And
ever
you've
since
seen all those
5-1.
Well, yeah, let's remember that, and the 3-2 as well. That was a cracker. If an Eric Dyer side can beat them 3-2 away, then Anyway, the point is, I digress. They Germany have 4-5 11s that could beat probably most teams in the world still. So yeah, it's fairly obvious they're the favourites.
Yeah.
So that first game against Mexico. It's a shame for them, really, because it'll put pressure on them straight away. They've instantly got to play catch-up with the other two, assuming, of course, that Germany win that first game.
Yeah.
Interesting to see how that one goes.
Andrew, normally we do a country's key men, but with Germany it's quite difficult. We could be here all day, really.
Well, yeah, it depends which way around you want to go. I think an interesting one in their squad really is the fact that Manuel Neuer's been injured for a large part of the second part of the season.
Yeah.
He will be fit, but you look at the choices they've got. They've got a PSG keeper, a Barcelona keeper, and a Bayer Leverkusen keeper in their preliminary squads. It's not like they're going to be struggling massively.
Stegen would be for me the one to come in if he's been playing.
It would seem most likely, wouldn't it? And I think, I don't know, look, we're picking holes here, but you have to with Germany because, like you just mentioned, there's so much quality. But if there is a hole to be picked, as a defence, they're so used to the assuredness of Neuer with the ball at his feet, distributing play. Will it play in their minds a little bit? But if he's fit, well, there's nothing to worry about. So I don't really think that should be too much of an issue. For me, though, you talk about key man, could be anybody. I'll stick my neck out and say, for me, Toni Kroos is vital because he's the cog for everything. Distributing, breaking up play defensively. He's not known to be a physical player, but he does have to play that role for Madrid. So he'll probably have a bit more license to get forward because I would imagine Sami Khedira will be the more defensive player in the midfield. But Kroos he can do everything, and the rest of the team can relax knowing that they can always have a quality passing option there. So for me, Toni Kroos is their main man.
Yeah, really good. I like a lot of people. I like the attacking players. Sane's really impressed me at Man City this season. He looks an amazing talent.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of hype about Timo Werner. Do you know much about this guy?
Oh, well, I tell you what. There was one goal he scored this season. I can't remember exactly who it was, but my word, this guy is quick. He's lightning quick.
Yeah, there's a lot of pace in the team.
Well, you could say this. We're going to sound like we're repeating ourselves, but you could say this about a lot of the Germany squad. But he really is. I would say he's got all the elements to be a complete striker. His pace is what struck me the first time I saw him. But it's just his sheer confidence, and he will finish almost anything. And what I'm looking forward to seeing is I actually read this morning that he has. It's fairly obvious to most people, but he's publicly said himself he needs to leave Rasenballsport Leipzig, I should say, to fulfil his potential. Now, it's not going to take much guessing to see which club in Germany will snap him up if he does leave. But I've also seen that Manchester United were linked with him as well.
Yeah.
So could well see Timo Werner leave. Now, he will be very expensive if he has a good World Cup. He'll already be costing, 60, 70 million euros, I would have thought. Good World Cup, over 100 easily. I
don't think 60 million would cut it now, to be honest. What does that get you?
Probably not.
No.
In today's market, madness, but
yeah, well, we could go on. I think you made a good point about Neuer, but it is difficult to find a weak link with Germany. They've got everything going for them. They're going to be there or thereabouts. But we definitely see them topping this group comfortably.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. I think I also saw that Joachim Löw signed yet another contract extension. It's mad to think how long he's been in charge there. I think it's now 12 years or 11 years as boss.
I mean, is that another example to other countries as well? Like, should England maybe place a long-term plan in Gareth Southgate?
Well, ideally, you'd like to say yes, and the logic's there. I mean, of course, you have to have the best man to be there. You can't just tell anybody to be long-term. But we saw Alan Pardew at Newcastle get that 8-year contract, and that was an expensive payoff. But no, the concept is what I like about Germany the most is that they're a very clear, shining example of long-term planning and youth development pays off. There is no short-term fix to proper dominance. You can't imagine Germany without Joachim Löw now. And internationally, he's like the Arsene Wenger of international football almost. But, it's phenomenal to see what he's done.
All right, then let's move on to Mexico. Mexico have got a decent history. They've always had some talented players from that neck of the woods. The standout players for them, well, you got Hernandez at West Ham. There's Carlos Vela, and then there's the player at Porto, Corona. I don't know a huge amount about their squad, but they would have had a hard qualifying campaign to get there.
I mean, the thing about Mexico, they've got a bit of a tough job each time they get to a major tournament, in my view, because they come from I would say arguably one of the weakest confederations in the world. They don't really have a challenge to get there. So, although name,
what about with USA? There's that battle with the Americans.
Well, I mean, in theory there is, but the US national team has been basically a mess for a while now, and we've seen obviously that they failed to qualify for this one. Panama will come on to in the next episode. Finished above them, and they will have physical battles. And I'm not saying the US national team don't have some good players. They do, but they seem to be They seem to be focused on athleticism rather than proper development. The simple answer the simple evidence to use for that: look at the best players in the US national team, and where have they either grown up and developed, or where do they still play in Europe, not in the MLS. I think for Mexico, that motivation to not motivation, sorry, the focus is hard for them to develop because they don't realistically, brutally have it for most of the cycle. And being a football mad nation like Mexico is, the pressure from the public is enormous. We always talk about it from the English perspective, but I think the Mexican pressure, and a lot of my contacts in Mexico have told me the same story. It's absolute madness. It's bedlam. So there's a lot of pressure on them. Yeah,
they're very passionate and sort of fiery sort of temperament, and they love their football. But it's good to see them in there. I think they'll bring a bit of colour. And over the years, I remember the great Hugo Sanchez at Real Madrid, and who was the guy that did the bounce? Do you remember that guy who did that World Cup? Was that? Oh
yes, he did So what was the little trick? He was basically the most efficient bicycle kick. What's it, Chilena? I think they call it in Latin America. He was just an absolute monster, even though he was so small, wasn't he?
I think Mexico. I like to see them in a World Cup. I think they bring a certain vibrancy and colour. So. And I like some of these teams that play attacking football and maybe not the most organised, but I think Mexico will have a go.
Well, I think you mentioned about the attacking players, and there's another one I'm really, really looking forward to seeing is Hirving Lozano. Who made his big move to Holland. Was it 18 months ago? I think it was. He is absolutely electric, and you're right. You want to see the entertaining players, the attacking players, the attack-minded players have that platform. The thing about Mexico as well, they have quite a lot of experience, and Rafael Marquez is somebody we've all known for quite a long time now, and he's still in their preliminary squad. I'm not sure when they're going to announce their final 23, but it's going to be any day soon, I think. And they have a lot. They have one of the most experienced squads that will be at the World Cup, and that's going to help. So,
what about Giovanni Dos Santos? Is he still in the Mexican squad, or is he phased out now?
I think he and Carlos Vela have been a bit of a controversial duo, really, because obviously they're ridiculously talented and they made their move.
Giovanni play. We thought he was going to be absolutely outstanding at Spurs, but he only showed it in glimpses.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? They both made their move to Europe really young, and to Barcelona, Dos Santos, and Vela to Arsenal. And their motivation had been questioned a lot during their career, but and especially when Dos Santos moved to the MLS, a lot of you mentioned that sort of rivalry, that mental gap or block even between Mexican football and US football, and a lot of people criticised him for moving to the MLS because it's still seen for someone like him. He's still only 29. Even though he's been around for so long, he's still not even reached his 30s. He's still got a good 5-6 years at the top if he dedicates himself properly. And I think he's at risk of being seen as a luxury player rather than a star of the side, which he should be. Carlos Vela and Dos Santos, I remember them when they were both playing in the Premier League over a decade ago, and they were just... I thought these guys are magical. And they still can be. Yeah.
We see it time and again, so many young players, and you think they're going to be the next Pele or Maradona. Freddie Adu, is it Freddie Adu? Do you remember him?
Blimey. And he's still playing.
At Spurs, we had a player, sorry to keep referencing Spurs, but obviously it's my club, and John Bostock was a player that could have been anything he wanted to be. And you get I remember. Yeah, even Andrew Lee Sharp. Okay, he went on to play international football, but his career didn't go as well as I think it could have done. Do you remember Lee Sharp?
I remember him. I remember watching him at Old Trafford when he first arrived, and he was. There were examples like this when a young player comes through who is. He was so cocky in the best kind of way.
Yeah,
he really connected with the fan. But you come up if you're in competition, direct competition with one of the greatest players to ever play for Manchester United, whatever club you're at. If you come up with that block mentally, I don't care what anybody says about professional footballers. That psychologically is very difficult. Yeah. You can say they're spoiled and they have all the luxury in the world, so they should be mentally switched on all the time. No, put yourself in a professional football environment with that self-doubt that will creep in. You're Lee Sharp, you see Ryan Giggs in your position. You think, can I do it? That's tough.
I think it only takes a bad injury to really put a player back. But the point is, as you say, players at 16, 17, 18, you get hyped up to be the next world sensation, and for whatever reason, there are so many examples where it just doesn't work out. Okay, so let's move on to, let's say Sweden. I lived in Sweden for a year. It's a great country, great people. They love their football. I followed Helsingborg when I was there, and they won the treble the year I was there as well.
Was that Henrik Larsson's club, Helsingborg?
Sorry?
Was that Henrik Larsson's club, Helsingborg?
That's right, yeah. And, that's right, and actually his son was... I knew his son, but I've got to be honest, I find Sweden not the most exciting team in the world to watch. They're more functional and practical than anything else. I respect them, but I don't see Sweden doing much this World Cup. Sorry to all my Swedish friends. What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, they certainly do have some quality players to call upon. They've got a lot of experience, and
Their main man won't be there. Their main man for me is still Zlatan, and he's what now, 36, and he's in it.
Well, unfortunately, it is a bit depressing, but it's kind of true. The guy is I'm still not going to rule out the possibility of a dramatic return at the last minute, but. If finally the Zlatan era is over, in a way, it might not be the worst thing for the Swedish national team if they can. I mean, I don't have a problem with him, but it is the Zlatan show, and it needs to be the Sweden show more.
That's right.
I mean, look, we're subconsciously starting to write Sweden off, but actually, I wouldn't be quite so sure. The Sweden-Mexico game, for me, is going to be key for second place in the group.
Yeah.
They do have a player who, well, I watch Russian football, of course, as you know, and Viktor Claesson at Krasnodar, and he came to Russia basically as an unknown outside Sweden. He'd scored a lot in Sweden.
He's an attacking midfielder.
Yeah, he's an attacking midfielder. He can play sort of behind the front man in a 4-2-3-1, pretty much anywhere along that three. He's a very, very good attacking midfielder with an eye for goal. And he's got a bit of experience now that he's played in Russia, of course, but he's definitely going to be a goal threat. I'd also point out Emil Forsberg at Leipzig, and he's an exceptionally talented player, but he does apparently have a bit of a character problem. and who was it? Ralph Hasenhüttl, the coach at Leipzig, or he either was or is. Basically had to put his foot down and tell him, you're not going anywhere, you're not going to engineer a move away for yourself, you're going to work for your place in the side. And in the end he did knuckle down, apparently. So he's an attacking number 10.
They've got a little bit of flair there. They've also got Marcus Berg, who scored 8 goals in qualifying. Now he's, I believe, playing in the Middle East, which isn't the greatest of standards, but he delivered the goods in the qualifying stages. This isn't a young player. I mean, he's probably 31 now, I think. But he's kind of taken the mantle and filled the void of Zlatan. In terms of goals, anyway. Obviously, he's not Zlatan, but so they have got a goal threat in Marcus Berg. Yeah, I mean,
he's the experienced man up front. Again, there's just looking at their list, Ola Toivonen. I don't know a lot about him specifically, but. He's got a lot of caps. He plays in Ligue 1. It's not the top of the top 5 leagues, but it is one of the best leagues around. So, the strikers don't stand out to me. I mean, John Guidetti, I remember when he came to as a youngster at City, he never quite made it. So he's not really convinced me. For me, their midfield is their strength.
I think their organisation and just their sort of their work ethic will. And it sounds very boring, but they don't concede too many goals. Andrew, you're a Man United fan. They've got Victor Lindelof. How do you see him? I mean, he wasn't always in the Man United team, was he?
No, I was disappointed not to see more of him, and there may well be slight fitness issues or even confidence issues because he didn't have the greatest of debuts. But I put a lot of that down to Jose Mourinho, who's just a cancer at the club. So I wouldn't read too much into his his uninspiring season. He's got the quality, and he was bought for a lot of money for a reason.
Because he was a shining light at Benfica. So we would be singing praises if it was this time a year ago, the World Cup.
I think a World Cup is probably exactly what he needs because it'll be a release from the stifling nature of his club football. He's got Andres Granqvist alongside him as the captain. He's again another player who I've watched a lot recently in Russia. He's actually left. He's going to join. I forget which club it is. Going back to Sweden anyway. He's got loads of experience, and people in England will remember him from playing at Wigan and probably think, well, he's nothing special. But he really is a very organised, very physical goal threat as well, actually, for a defender. He does get forward late on in games. So good partner for Lindelof, potentially.
Okay, Andrew. And let's move on. Last team in this group is South Korea. I'm not going to try and con anyone here. The only player I really know is obviously Son from Spurs, who I love. I think he's a great player. Actually, I'd quite like to see South Korea do well. But other than that, I don't know an awful lot. They've got a couple of Premier League players with experience, Ki Sun and Lee Chung Wong at Crystal Palace. That's about all I know. And the only other thing I can say is they've qualified 9 times in a row, which might surprise a few people. So, over to you, Andrew.
Yeah, well, I mean, South Korea are one of the heavyweights of Asian football, and that counts in their favour because, like you mentioned, they are consistently playing at major tournaments. Yeah. And I think the thing about them is that, I mean, there's not going to be a huge amount of expectation. There never really is, except obviously 2002 when they hosted and got to the semi-finals. But I mean, let's not beat around the bush. That performance was aided by some very dubious officiating. Yeah. So. I mean, we remember the story of Ahn Jun Hwan, who played for Perugia at the time, and he was fired by, they've got a mental, or had a mental owner, and he said, I'm not employing somebody who dumped my country out of the World Cup.
Oh, I remember that.
You remember that, yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, actually, that's actually a point I would make. You mentioned about not being familiar with the players. 2002, I remember that World Cup, and I remember most people were very familiar with a lot of their players.
Didn't you have the Man United player, Park Ji-sung? Was he there at that time? Or was that after?
Park at the time would have been, I can't remember if he played in that World Cup, I'd be brutally honest.
Maybe afterwards, yeah.
He probably was in the squad, because he would have been around his very early 20s at the time. But he's one example of a big name. Now, I'm not saying... Yeah. I mean, it's just, the thing is, you don't need big name players to be successful, even at big name major tournaments. Look at Iceland 2 years ago.
Yeah, this is what Jim Hart said a few weeks back. You know, it's more important, I think, to have that group unity.
Yeah,
and as you said about Sweden, maybe losing a talisman like Zlatan can bring the squad together in a different way.
Yeah, I think so. I mean. If we look at the players in the squad, then that we do know the highlights you mentioned. Son, of course, he's the golden boy of Korean football, and but actually, Ki Sung Young at Swansea, I've always been quite a sort of, I wouldn't say passionate fan of his, but I've always been impressed with his sort of simplicity. His passing is sensible, and he's obviously got a lot of experience. Free kick. Well, yeah, I mean, you need somebody with quality on the ball like that at any level to give yourself a bit of confidence. South Korea are going to be backs to the wall for large parts of the tournament, and if they have somebody like that who they think, okay, he's our captain, we know at least he will pass sensibly, he's got some quality in front of him in Son, of course. He could be very important for them. I don't expect them to go through, but
do you see South Korea playing attacking football or sitting back?
Honestly, I can't see them being. Attacking simply because they just are playing better countries, and if they did, it would be practically suicide for them. They open themselves up, and they could be torn. Certainly, by Germany, will be torn apart. By Mexico, probably too. But again, we always come back to it. This is why I love the World Cups. I don't care if it's sanitised by FIFA and money and corruption. Yeah. I love World Cups because you just don't know what is going to happen. Yeah. 4 years ago, Costa Rica, they got to the quarterfinals. The quarterfinals of the World Cup, Costa Rica. Yeah. Iceland 2 years ago in the Euros. Yeah. Korea are not an unknown quantity, so it's not the same story. Yeah. But they're not a big name. Who knows? You never know.
I agree, Andrew. I see the World Cup as a festival of football. It's almost like brings out the child in me. I like to see teams, even naive teams. I like naive teams that just go for it. It's ridiculous, it's reckless, but I love seeing teams like Cameroon in 1990 and other teams that just go for it. And okay, they might come unstuck at some point, but I love that. I don't like watching games of chess. I don't like watching teams managed by people like Jose Mourinho. I like football to be entertaining, but I know that it's a sport, and I know that it's big, serious business, and people want to win. But I would rather somebody had the attitude they're trying to win rather than not to lose. That's all.
Yeah, you never know. That might actually be the mindset of South Korea themselves. They know they've no expectations, so why not go for it? And
play without fear. Yeah. So let's call this group then. I'm going Germany, Mexico, and I'll say the key game. I would say the key games are all three between Mexico, Sweden, South Korea. I think they're all key games.
Yeah, I can't argue that. I'd go Germany, Mexico too. So based on the fact that we're not exactly telling well-kept secrets that Germany are favourites. Everybody will say the same. So second place is the battle. Therefore, that last match day in Yekaterinburg between Mexico and Sweden, that's going to be key. I think simply because that'll decide second place. It actually, one of the things that will balance it out for me as well, I see Mexico as the stronger team, but almost certainly I think Mexico will be behind Sweden on points because the first match day, if Sweden beat South Korea and Germany beat Mexico, as we probably expect to happen, then...
I've got a theory on that, Andrew. I'm going to make... Okay, Germany possibly could win, but I wouldn't be surprised if that game is a classic and Mexico pull off something from that. Germany don't always start very well. They don't always win their opening game, and they usually seem to get better as the tournament goes on, Germany. I think the best... If you're in a group with Germany, I think the best time to play them is that first game.
True. There is that too. So, I don't know. I mean, it's so hard to bet against Germany at all nowadays. But I just think their preparation is so good. There is that element though.
I'm going to call a 3-3 draw in that first game.
I'll tell you what. If you're right on that, Rob, then you shouldn't be teaching. You should be betting.
Germany, Mexico, 3-3. You heard it here first. I see that. I just see Mexico. I see Hernandez causing them a few problems. Yeah, and we'll see. Could be completely wrong. It's all guesswork. Isn't it? On to the next one, which is Group G, and this is the one we should be the most enthused about. And hand on heart, it's looked to me one of the most boring groups because you've got two teams that are definitely looking like they should go through, and two teams that are going to just set up camp and defend for their lives. We have Belgium, we have England, we have Panama, and we have Tunisia. Go on, Andrew. Who do you see going through from this group?
Panama and Tunisia, obviously. No, I mean it's about. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. It's the dullest group on paper. Even with Belgium, I mean they are a fabulous side on paper, but under Roberto Martinez, they're a bit out of shape. They, not taking Rajan Nainggolan has not gone down very well with a lot of their fans, and Belgium should be really. They should be making the semi-final.
For me, that was a suicidal appointment because Belgium right now are sitting on their golden generation. And I like Roberto Martinez. He comes across well. I just don't think he's the best coach that they could have got to work with that pool of talent.
It was a very odd appointment.
Problems, isn't there? There's been internal problems between him and some of the players. I noticed that one of the players, I can't pronounce his name, Nainggolan or something at Roma.
Nainggolan, yeah.
That to me seems like that was just a personal clash.
Well, I mean, it's quite obviously, just state the most obvious thing of all time. It clearly was not tactical because he's their best midfielder, defensive. I'm talking about midfielder in the truest sense, not right. Attacking.
Roma's a top Italian team, semi-finalist of the Champions League. He was a pivotal part of that. How can he not be in their squad?
It clearly is not tactical. So I don't. It's not. It's got to be something either we don't know about or we just simply haven't read about. But that is that's a good thing for England. It means potentially if it comes down to winning the group, that last match day in Kaliningrad.
Now,
on a slight side note, I hope to actually be in Kaliningrad for that game, but I'm not entirely sure if I will. But that could be
fantastic. Yeah, you need to do a little live reporting from the touchline. I see that Belgium for me. You can go through their team, and I think player for player they have a better team than England, and they have a much better squad. They have a really strong squad. But I see that Belgium-England game almost being played like a league match, like a club match. We know so much about each other.
Yeah, I mean, there's also the fact that it's the last match day. By then, both of them will have played Panama, and surely even England can't fail to beat Panama.
You say that? Do you say that with 100% confidence?
Look, I'm not trying to be sort of different, but genuinely not 100% confident, 95% confidence, yes. But can you imagine? Look, it's again, we come back to that element that we talked about before, and we mentioned with Jim Hart and one of the previous episodes about Iceland. Panama, this is their first appearance at the World Cup. Can you imagine how fired up that team is going to be? England are not known for being brilliant at breaking down stubborn sides. Yeah. So there really could be a case of... Do you remember the 2006 against Trinidad and Tobago, and Crouchy scored with like 5 minutes to go?
Yeah.
I can see it being a game similar to that.
Yeah.
And if Panama just dig their heels in, we could be looking at a spot of bother there.
Yeah. I don't see us scoring a lot of goals, I've got to be honest. I'm not trying to be negative, but I think this is one of the worst uninspiring England squads I've ever seen. I don't think Gareth Southgate is to blame. I just don't think he's had an awful lot to choose from. I don't disagree with the only player I think he should have taken, but it's a very contentious one. I think he should have taken Ryan Sessegnon to this World Cup, but that's just my opinion, because I like to see players attacking players, and I think he's in form. But we'll come on to that in a minute.
Well, yeah, I mean, looking at the England squad, I think I more or less share your opinions actually on that, because I think Southgate, with what he's had to choose, has chosen more or less.
I wouldn't have taken Joe Hart. I wouldn't have taken Wilshere. They don't deserve it. So
no, they absolutely not. But what I will say in their defence is I like to see them being annoyed, saying, "Look, I'm really annoyed. I'm not in the World Cup," because you want to see players want to play for their country.
Annoyed, but you should be annoyed at yourself for your own performance.
No. What I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think it's good to see them not just shrug their shoulders and just bugger off to Barbados or whatever.
But to be honest, I don't see either of them ever coming back. Maybe Wilshere's got time on his side, but I just don't. I think Wilshere should be a difference maker for England, and he should have had a career with over 100 caps in midfield. He's definitely got the quality, but he's just permanently injured. The guy has got. I do think there is a real thing of injury proneness. I think Wilshere's got it, and if you can't depend on your players to even be there, yet alone have a high level of performance, then you can't really count on them. I think what England lack is certainly a defence. Desperately need some. John Stones could develop into one half of that, but a partner alongside him who can offer a bit more brawn, but without being clumsy like Phil Jones or Smalling. The defence is a worry to me. Andrew, the defence is shocking. Now, let's go through this, right? I don't want to slag off Jack Wilshere, because talent-wise, he's one of our best players. And it is. I'm a Spurs fan, and don't really gloat or take any satisfaction from it. I want to see England's best players there. But truth is, he went to Bournemouth 2 years ago on loan. In the end, he wasn't even making the team there by the end of the season. I don't think he scored a goal for them in about 30 appearances. Last season, he showed glimpses, especially early on. I think the Arsenal fans were getting quite excited. He's back to his best. He showed a few glimpses, tailed off a little bit at the end. I don't think he's gonna get any better from this point. I don't think he's gonna realise the potential that we all thought he might a few years ago, because we thought we had a world beater. The people comparing him to Xavi and things like that. I don't think he's going to obtain those levels, and it's a shame.
I don't think Xavi's going to be worried anytime soon about his reputation. No.
But that being said, if obviously a fully fit, fully functioning Jack Wilshere would have been a huge asset for England, massive, but it's not to be.
So. Well, okay, I'll tell you what. Look, we got to be as balanced as we can, Rob, in this, and let's try and pick out some positives from the squad. For me, one of the biggest. Don't laugh too much. But genuinely, for me, one of the biggest pluses is Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think he genuinely.
Won't get in the team, will he?
I think it would be. I think it would be actually ridiculous if he didn't. But I'm not saying he will get in the side. But for me, it's an absolute no-brainer. He's a solid. He's developed this season already, and this is what I like. Well, I mean, just right back or right wing back.
Where does Kyle Walker get in then? Would you
honestly, I'm not saying this because Kyle Walker plays for City, but Alexander-Arnold for me is a far better option.
Really?
I honestly think when you've got a guy with that much pace, that much confidence, and he's in the perfect club for him at the moment because he's trusted by a manager who wants to play his style of football. I'm not saying don't play Kyle Walker at all. I'd even consider, although I'm not a massive fan of this, if England decided to go with a back three and have Kyle Walker.
He's tried that, hasn't he? He's tried Walker in that back.
Well, there's been a few glimpses of that, haven't there?
Does that negate Walker's qualities if you play him? I see Walker bombing down the wing.
Well, honestly, I'd rather see Alexander-Arnold bombing down the wing. I mean, Walker's got more experience, yes, and not saying he's a bad player. Of course, he's not. But I think Trent is I think he's technically a better player. I know he's young, and
a lot of people agree with that. I rate Kyle Walker. He's had his critics. He had a spell at Spurs where he frustrated me, but he kicked on. And I know a lot of people slag him off, but honestly, the last couple of years at Tottenham, he was excellent. Him and Danny Rose for about 2 years on both wing backs were excellent for Spurs. He went to Man City, and I thought he had a very good season at Manchester City. I thought he was...
Of course he did. I mean, people can say, "Oh, well, you're playing in a good side, therefore, of course you're going to look."
His game on, and now he's won the league. The positives for England for me are Harry Kane and Raheem Sterling. They're the positives, because if we go through the defence like you touched on, the goalkeeper situation for me isn't great. All right, probably I would go for Jack Butland, but I don't think Jack Butland's world class. And then if you go through the defence, the centre half is weak. The centre back,
it is the weakest part.
It's so weak. We've no depth. Gary Cahill's had a poor season. John Stones was in and out of the team.
Stones is we should start to build a defence which gets the best out of him, because I do think he could be. I'm not going to wax lyrical in the Pep Guardiola ball-playing centre-half role, but I do think he's got enough intelligence that he could be an excellent. He's
a very stable partner alongside him.
I agree.
England haven't got a settled pairing. It's been up and down. We've had Phil Jones, Chris Smalling. We've tried Kyle Walker there. Harry Maguire's come in. I think Harry Maguire's a little bit hyped up, to be honest, but. And then that's really it. For me, it just looks weak. It looks a little bit poor. I think any team with a bit of pace and guile is going to expose that centre-back pairing. And also, we haven't had a regular goalkeeper centre-back pairing partnership. It's messy. And then at left-back, we've got Danny Rose. Danny Rose hasn't even been first choice for club. Ben Davies has been first choice for club, and Danny Rose, to be honest, hasn't been on his top of his game for a while. Well, what other left back options have we got? Ashley Young out of position. What have we got there?
I mean, what I see most likely happening, and this is just my guess. I can see probably the back. I reckon he'll play with a back four most likely, because unlike other countries, England, a lot of English players tend not to play. I'm not saying exclusively, of course, there are some, but most English players don't play in a back three at club level. And I think he will go for back four. I think he'll probably have Kyle Walker and Ashley Young as the fullbacks, most likely.
Young's had a decent season, isn't he?
I'm not saying this is what I think is the best, just what I think Southgate will go with. And probably Phil Jones alongside John Stones. Doesn't fill me with confidence. The only thing I would say is that Ashley Young genuinely has been one of Manchester United's best players this season. Right. He's an unsung. I'm not saying world beating, but in a very poor season, he's been.
Where did he play in the United team? What was his position?
No, he played left back all season for us, and I mean, I know he's naturally a winger, and he's even said himself recently he sees himself still as an attacker. But he started at left back. He did get caught out of position, but he's developed a lot of defensive nous, and he has some frustrating tendencies to make a bit of a meal of challenges sometimes. But he does offer a good attacking threat from out wide, and I think that's a very important part of a fullback nowadays. So
yeah, you might be right there, because I'm not sure about Phil Jones though, Andrew. I think he's been pretty poor at times.
No, again, he shouldn't be starting.
I wouldn't even have him in the squad, but.
No, realistically, I would like to have anybody else instead of him. As a United fan, I've had to groan at his clumsy, collapsing positional nightmares. It's just I can't see.
Is he better than Chris Smalling?
I see Smalling as a far better player than Phil Jones, but a lot of people rate Jones more. I don't really see why, because they're both error-ridden, but Smalling is more mobile, and he does at least.
As well.
He's a decent goal threat, and he's got a bit of, not a lot of pace, but a bit more pace than Jones, and can therefore cover for some mistakes a bit more. But it doesn't fill you with confidence.
Right, so that defence is clearly an England's weak point. Now, you say the midfield is our strong point. I'm looking at that midfield, and I'm worried. I see Eric Dyer and Jordan Henderson as solid, limited players. No disrespect, they're not world class. They do a job. They do it to the best of their abilities, but I just see them against the very best nations getting exposed. What part of the midfield how do you think we're going to line up? How do you think we're going to set up?
Tough one, really. Like I say, I think he'll probably start with a back four, and obviously Harry Kane picks himself captain as well, so he's going to be leading the line in the middle. I think it will be something that will be 4-3-3, 4-5-1, depending on how you look at the formation.
I've written down an England formation, and mine is 4-3-3. And go on, sorry.
What? No, go on, Rob. Tell me what your midfield three...
now that you've said about Ashley Young, I think I might change it. But I had Button in goal, Walker and Rose as the fullbacks, Stones, Cahill as centre-backs. A 4-3-3, but then I had two holding midfielders, right?
Okay.
And that is sort of Dyer and Delph. And the reason I've gone for Delph is he's been very consistent for Man City, and he doesn't really give the ball away too much. And I think he's got quite a bit of discipline. He's learnt his trade under Guardiola's kept him. I think that's a significant thing. He's got rid of Guardiola. If he doesn't like someone, they're out. But Delph has stayed and been very versatile. So I would have Delph and Dyer. And I would have Dele Alli like a triangle, and Dele Alli with a bit of licence to roam forwards. And then I would have Sterling and Lingard supporting Kane. So Kane up front, Sterling and Lingard sort of running the channels and coming inside. That would be my England 11.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting option. I actually hadn't considered that about Delph, because I'd been focusing really on this season where he's played more at left back for City. But actually, I do like your logic there, because Henderson, he just seems like because he's in the squad we better pick him. I don't think he doesn't do a lot right, he doesn't do a lot wrong. I think Delph could be a slightly more dynamic version in that role. And if you have the two holding midfielders, I actually also think that's not a bad idea, because of the worries we've just mentioned about the defence. So one other thing I would consider, and a variation on what you've picked, Rob, I would consider, a bit risky maybe, Eric Dyer's the holding midfielder, Dele Alli and Loftus-Cheek in midfield.
I like Loftus-Cheek. I do. I rate him.
I think his
he's got a real presence about him, and he's good on the ball.
Well, he does, doesn't he? He's one of those slightly rare examples of a Chelsea loan spell that actually has been productive and probably very good for his career.
Yeah.
I say, why not? The guy's young. He's had a good season with a good second half of the season. Has been positive, and then up front that leaves you Harry Kane in the middle. Yeah. This goes against a lot of my principles here, but I would even think of having Sterling and Jamie Vardy out wide.
See, Lingard, I like the idea of Vardy on the bench, impact player. World Cup, 70 minutes gone, defences are tiring, Vardy's got blistering pace. I would use Vardy every single game as an impact sub.
I definitely think you forget what you think of his personality, and I don't really think much of that. But as a player and the qualities he offers, Vardy really needs to be exploited, I think. I mean, I've not mentioned Marcus Rashford in my starting lineup, and honestly, I think he is arguably the most naturally gifted of the forwards that England have. Sterling is electric, and we've got to pick Sterling. I really do believe that. Which is a shame, because I actually think Sterling, Vardy, Rashford, and Kane all have reasonably good claims to be playing at least parts of games. So who he'll choose, I don't know, but that's what I would go with.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I just really think we should have taken Ryan Sessegnon on, and I think people go on about his age or he's not played Premier League, but often, I remember we took Steve Ball to 1990. He was playing for Wolves. He weren't in the top flight. I remember Wayne Rooney was about 18 in 2004. That was arguably his best ever performances for England. And I just think sometimes when you're young and you're on fire, you're fearless. I would have taken him, and he's got so much skill and talent. So I would have taken Ryan Sessegnon. And but overall, I like Gareth Southgate. I like him as a person. I thought he was a decent player. I think he comes across well. He wasn't a particularly inspiring manager at Middlesbrough, but he has done very well with the England youth setups. He had success with the under-21s. He does promote young players. He's brave. He tries different players. He doesn't stick to the same old guard. So I actually would like to see him have a period of longevity. Let's have some stability.
Yeah, I'd go along with that. I think one of the things,
of how we do this World Cup, I would keep him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree completely on that. They have to take the pressure off him.
Yeah.
It's ludicrous to say you come in and your first tournament is what you're judged on. It's just stupid. The thing I'd remind everybody of that we quite often forget is in the whole madness and immediacy of a World Cup, it's a completely different thing to be an international manager than to be a club head coach. And this is that's another thing. It's the wording itself. Manager is the key word. Yeah. He has to manage the whole squad, not just as players, but much more importantly, in my view, as people. I really like how he has handled the utter madness of the tabloids just destroying Sterling.
Yeah.
And I like how he's basically diffused the situation and said, I can't comment on it. I mean, deep down, obviously he'll be supporting Sterling, and that will mean a lot to him. I know he will, because, well, he's not exactly going to pick him in the squad and say, yeah, you're really wrong, Raheem. But in public, instead of making it into a battle and, in fact, adding fuel to the fire that the tabloids are trying to produce, diffusing that, Sterling knows he's going to be a main man. So I like Southgate for that. I think he's doing a good job on that record.
I think he's got excellent man management. He's a clever, intelligent guy. He comes across well. Some managers sort of build up a them and us mentality get with the press, because the press are little toe rads. They're trying anything they can to get a story. I mean, and one thing he said, which was very true, rightly or wrongly, whatever you think about Sterling's tattoo, Sterling's had that tattoo a while now, and it wasn't a story when he was playing for Manchester City. It's now a story on the eve of the World Cup. And the tabloids seem to do this every time England go to a tournament. There's some sort of whatever. And it's, you have to read into that what you will. But I like Southgate. I like the fact that he's one of these people that will. He's been working with the young players. That's his philosophy, and I like managers like that are brave. And he can only work with what he's got at the moment. But I think in time, especially with the success England have had, was it under 20s, under. We've had a couple of successes. I think in time England could be somewhere. But right now, the reality is, often England fans are mocked, and we've got sort of delusions of grandeur, and we think we're better than we are. But I honestly don't know any England fan who thinks we're going to do particularly well. I think we all accept the reality is now where we are is we're just very average. We're just a very average team, and I think the expectations are lower than they've ever been before, and I think this could be a good thing.
I agree. I agree. The pressure in the short term taken off because of less expectation, but also, like you say, it means it's the best chance we've got of giving a manager a whole cycle for a World Cup without the pressure, I'm hoping here, without the pressure of his future being decided on his performance in this tournament.
Yeah.
Because, like you mentioned, the young generations coming through, the quality has always been there in the young levels, but it's about translating it up to the senior level. And that's, I don't know why England is so good at that, but if they can, then you never know, the next tournament, next World Cup even, England really could be in a very healthy position.
Yeah, but I would like to see him stay for a long period of time, a bit like the German model. But then I like that I like that with club football. I like that. I like to see managers stay and build something. I hate all this culture we have today. A couple of bad results and you're out. And I think there is no, as you said earlier, there is no quick fix to international football. Germany are reaping the benefits of something they put in nearly 20 years ago. And that's a long-term vision they had. And I know that England built the St George's training facility a while back, and England have the seeds have already been planted for England. Maybe we're about 5 or 6 years away from seeing the fruits of it fully, but the success of the recent younger teams was really a timely boost, because there's been a lot of negativity about the England international team now for some time. Right, let's move on to Belgium. How good are Belgium? Are they kind of like another Holland? All this ability and talent, but not really going to get over the line. They on paper they look to have everything.
Yeah, I think they are an absolutely fantastic side. I really actually am going to enjoy watching them, because it'll be fascinating to see how Martinez sets them up, and if they look like they're playing for their manager or not. It's mental that you even have to consider that at international level. But I mean, it's like you say, their lineup on paper, they should be a World Cup semi-final side.
Well,
I mean,
do they not have 2 of the best 10 players in the world? If you were listing your top 10 best players in the world, they have 2. I would say were nailed on. De Bruyne and Hazard.
I mean, Hazard, I actually think, I think there's something had actually been missing from him for a couple of years. He seems a bit distracted, but he's still got ludicrous quality. I mean, you've got a midfield. You could have an attacking, let's call it an attacking 6. If you can call upon Axel Witsel, Moussa Dembele, De Bruyne, Carrasco, Tielemans, Hazard, Mertens, Romelu Lukaku, even Batshuayi and Benteke, they have had reasonable seasons. I mean, that is just absolutely maddening. How can you have that much quality?
That's a frightening midfield.
Oh God, just a bit.
That midfield and that attacking threat is as good as anything. I mean, at the back, I know a little bit because Spurs again, the connection. But I have to say this: Jan Vertonghen's been one of Spurs' best players this year, and obviously we got Toby Alderweireld, but he's been injured, and then kind of like it looks like he's on his way out of Spurs, so he hasn't been in the team.
You mean future Manchester United defender Toby?
I'd rather he went there than Chelsea, but it looks like he's going. But Toby's class, but honestly, he's played a handful of games this year, was injured, and then his head weren't right. Jan Vertonghen has been outstanding for Spurs this season. So you got them two, and obviously Moussa Dembele, I don't know if people realise how good he is. I think some obviously do now, but Moussa Dembele is the one player, if he's missing for Spurs, we miss more than anyone, even more than Harry Kane, because when Harry Kane's had his injuries, we've had Son to come in or whatever, Moussa Dembele makes everything tick, and he's such a fantastic player. Possibly should have achieved or been better. He should have been better for his talent.
I think I do agree with you on Dembele. I think he must be one of the hardest players to get the ball off. I mean, he's just so strong.
Yeah.
It may not be. I mean, for the role he plays, he can be more than just an enforcer in midfield. He can carry the ball. He can get moves moving quickly, which is just absolute heaven for players like De Bruyne, who can then have complete freedom. I mean, he really is he's
got the whole package.
Dangerous.
But Andrew, let's be honest, he isn't regarded as one of the world's elite top players. He's not in the You know, and because I love Tottenham, that's my club. But if he had achieved his potential, he would have moved on from Tottenham. Is that not true? Is that not fair?
I think there's probably an element of truth in that. I mean, it's not meant to be disrespectful to Spurs, but I mean, maybe that's just the way. That's how it keeps him content. He likes to be in a team where he's trusted, he's backed completely, and he doesn't have to deal with the politics. I think some players might just ever so slightly think twice about going to the likes of Real Madrid or Barcelona or Bayern Munich just because of the politics of making the side and being a big name player. PSG would be a more direct example.
But talent alone, he's good enough for those clubs on sheer talent.
I think if you said to Barcelona, okay, here's your defensive midfielder, Dembele, I really don't think he would lower the quality. They possibly don't have to buy him because they've got a fair few decent players themselves. But I think he could be a key for Belgium. I think.
And he's now 30, 31, so he's not going to get any better. He is going to start to decline. This is probably his last. Well, I would say his last World Cup. You never know, but for me, this is a now or never time for Belgium. They've got their squad at a really good age, mid to late 20s. The young players are not so young anymore. I mean, Kevin De Bruyne is 26 now. They're starting to come into their peak. A lot of their very good players are starting to come into their peak. I definitely see Belgium as a real threat, and I don't think Belgium can be labelled dark horses. I keep seeing people, Belgium's my dark horse. Belgium aren't a dark horse, are they? They're a genuine, real threat.
Well, absolutely. I think they could go quite a long way because this side of the draw, I think, is the slightly more comfortable one, with the exception of Germany. You've got you got too many tricky teams on the other side of the draw, so they've got a good chance of going a long way. But I think Belgium.
What are their weak links, Andrew? Because they've got a top goalkeeper. We've said the midfield and the attack strong. Vertonghen at centre half. Where's the weak links?
Well, weak links, again, it's... I mean, not quite to the extent of Germany, but it's hard to pick holes in the Belgian side. Again, we're talking on paper here. I guess, if anything, the weak link is the manager. I mean, Martinez, I think he comes across as such a sincere, genuine bloke, and he seems positive, and I think his personality seems great. But the problem is, he just I don't know why, in particular, his Everton career just went. He lost the drive of the players, because don't forget, when he started at Everton, his first season or second season, he was absolutely. Everton were playing brilliant football under him, and it just, I don't know why it fell to pieces. I can't really put my finger on it. So I wonder whether he's able to genuinely get the best out of all those players. His challenge is to have. Well, he's got so much attacking talent. How can he keep them all happy? And when they're on the pitch, how can he get the most out of them? If he can do that, then he could restore his career. And as he's a nice bloke, I think, well, I'd like him to do that. On the pitch, I guess fullbacks might be the weak link. But, I mean, are they really weak? I can't really say that. Jordan Lukaku's playing for Lazio. They've had a great season. Thomas Meunier, he's at PSG, so they don't lack quality.
So we'll say Belgium win the league and England, or win the group, and England's runners up. That's what we're saying. And then Panama. The only thing I'll say about Panama is most of their players based in the US.
Please be quiet. I mean, when it comes to Panama, like you say, a lot of them with MLS experience. That's probably going to stand them in good stead, because they'll have professional setups, and they will be playing in front of, I mean, not huge crowds, but some of the teams have decent crowds. Roman Torres, the guy with the big hair who scored the goal that qualified them, I'm looking forward to seeing this guy. He seems a bit of a character for them, and it's certainly going to be his last World Cup, because he's already 32.
They've got another Torres as well. They've got two Torres. Is it Roman Torres? The guy you mentioned?
Roman Torres is he's the defender. He's the guy who scored their goal that qualified. I see. Yeah, I don't know a lot about the others. If I'm, it sounds awful. Really, we should be preparing better.
The goalkeeper plays for Dynamo Bucharest, and then mostly it's predominantly US players. But as you said earlier, that they could be another Costa Rica or Trinidad, couldn't they? Panama, they could be tricky.
Well, I think their biggest strength, like a lot of the smaller sides, is the fact that this is their debut. This means more to them than any other team because they don't know when they will be able to qualify again. I mean, perhaps they do have a generation coming through that we don't know about that means they'll be a strong CONCACAF contender in future years. But that fact that they're not going to want to make up the numbers. They're going to want to. Yeah. They're going to want to put on a show. This is their chance to be in the shop window as club players. So, what better way than to put in a spirit.
If they did have a bit of success, would that increase the sales of Panama hats? Could that be a?
I reckon there'll be quite a lot of neutrals who will be supporting them. So you never know. Perhaps.
I'm quite partial to a Panama hat myself. Right, so on to Tunisia now. Again, limited knowledge, I would say. Is it Wabi Kazri? Is that how you say it? Plays for Rennes, played for Sunderland. He would be their star man. Most of their players are based in the French first and second division leagues. I mean, how competitive is that? I'm not sure, but they've got the centre back for Marseille, Abdenor. After that, I don't really can say too much about Tunisia, but. Years ago, didn't we, Andrew?
Say again, sorry?
We played them in 98. I remember Scholesy scored when we beat them 2-0.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we did play them in 98. I mean, the fact that a lot of their players play in the French league is going to be good for a couple of reasons. One, because they'll be familiar with each other, at least the league that they play in, and also because it means that they will be playing in good conditions. They'll be well prepared physically. The only thing I'm just looking down their squad list. They don't appear to have a great deal of experience in the squad. Not many people have more than 15, 20 caps, other than 2 or 3 defenders, 2 or 3 midfielders. Maybe that might be a problem for them. But I'll be honest. I don't recognise many of their names. I don't think many people would do though.
So out of Panama and Tunisia, who would you favour? Would you see that as a draw?
Wow, I mean, Tunisia do have a lot of experience qualifying from the African qualifying section, so they've got the more experience. I guess maybe it's my heart saying it, but I actually think Panama might be able to cause problems for them because this is their big chance.
I agree. I think Panama are going to win 3-0.
Well, the only downside for me is that being the last game of the group stage, it's very likely that at least one of them, probably both of them, will already be out. Yeah. So it might take a bit of a sting out of the game. If it had been the first or second game and there was something riding on it, and you thought, well, hang on, if we get 3 points here, you never know. So that's the only downside.
So Tunisia to come fourth, Panama third, but maybe do themselves proud. England will probably stumble in second, and Belgium to go through in first. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, I think that's about what I'd say. Yeah, right. I mean, Belgium and England go through. Yeah.
Right now, Andrew, I don't want to keep you any longer because I think you might be in the doghouse. So I don't want you in trouble. We've had an hour of your time, so I appreciate that, mate. And we've only got one more group to do. And then we've got the knockout.
Oh, blimey! The knockouts is going to be crazy to try and organise. I tell you what,
we could do a very short knockout one where we skim through it, but that would be more fun than the groups, I think.
It'll be mad stuff. But I mean, just one little last thought. Just looking ahead to that last group, I think that is actually going to be the hardest group to predict because. Tell
me who's in it because I can't remember.
Poland, Senegal, Colombia, and Japan.
Brilliant. I would say now that is a group. I love groups like that. I think Colombia could do well this World Cup.
I mean, Colombia, Poland should really be the strongest two, but I'd say that's arguably the most level of four sides. So.
I like groups like that. You just don't know what's going to happen. That'll be intriguing.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks very much, Andrew, and all the best, and see you soon.
All right. See you soon, buddy.
Cheers.